Well, look, I mean, let's just take a look at a year ago. So coming into preseason, I don't know where we were, but I don't even think we were in the top 50 preseason ranking, maybe the top 100. I don't remember, but because all anyone on the outside knows is where we were a year ago. That's it. And so, you look at where we were in 14. Right? There was no evidence for anybody that we were going to be conference champs this year, go to the second round, and we had to prove it on the field. And I think the first time we cracked the rankings, we were maybe 4-0 or 5-0 or something like that. And then people finally saw the evidence, right? Well, here we are again, this year. All they know now is where we were a year ago, and they can look at our roster and see who's coming back and who graduated. And so they're basing that on that information, right? The thing that's important, I think, for our guys to understand, and we talked to them about this the whole off season, is, you're only as good as your last ball game, and you've got to continually earn it every day. You got to continually prove it every day. And last year's team is over with. It's done with. That team died on or around November 15th, and a new team was born. And the lifespan of a football team is 12 months. And you've got to accelerate your growth as fast as possible through infancy as a new football team and through childhood and adolescence, if you will, and become fully functioning, high-achieving adults by the time you get to the season. And so everything that we did this off-season, and we're still doing here, as our guys are home working for the summer, are preparing them to earn that right. But as far as rankings and polls go, I mean, all these are our opinions. One of the things that we're going to talk to our guys about this year is really raising the bar. I heard a quote 25, maybe 30 years ago for the first time, and it's always stuck with me, and it's something I've always kind of kept in the front of my mind, by Henry Ward Beecher. He said this. He said, "Hold yourself responsible for a higher standard than anyone else could possibly expect of you." And the reason that resonates with me is I think that too often people hold themselves to other people's standards, right? And there's no way to go through life, as a person, let alone as an employee or as a student athlete or anything else, if you're going to measure yourself by other people's expectations. And so I don't really care what anyone else's opinion is. What really matters for us as a football team is what's our opinion of ourselves. I don't care what some outside organization thinks we're preseason ranked, because really the only standard that matters is a standard that we're holding ourselves to, not someone else, not what anyone else is holding us to. And I always felt like if you hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else could expect of you, you're never going to be disappointed, regardless of what anyone else thinks. And so we've got to raise the bar. I mean, are we happy with where we were a year ago? Are we happy with where we are today? Well, I don't think we are, and I hope we're not, and I hope our players aren't. We've got to earn it every single day, just like we talked about a year ago, and this is no different. I mean, here we are, really for me, it's the end of the summer. I mean, we've got a high school, team camp that's finishing up this weekend. Our coaches are in the office next week for what we call coaches camp. And we've got about 3 weeks there to get our staff ready and get on the same page 100%. I got a lot of staff changes here in this off season. I got a new defensive coordinator. I got a new special teams coordinator. I've got some new young coaches that we hired in intern positions. And so over the next 3 weeks, we've got to really get ourselves on the same page as a staff and set our standards as a staff as to what standard are we holding ourselves to, and set that standard before our players show up on August 12th. And then our players have to get on the same page as far as what that standard is, and that's really measured on a daily basis. If you want to, in my view, every day that goes by, you're either 1-0 or 0-1. and our job is to be 1-0 every day. And it's irrespective of what happened the day before or what's going to happen tomorrow. Let's win today. And that's our job as a football team, is to work to be 1-0 every day, regardless of what happened the day before. In a bigger picture, the same is true of our season, right? It doesn't matter what happened a season ago. What are we going to do today? And you win the day, you win the day, you win the day. You're 1-0, 1-0, and then that's going to translate into a 1-0 Saturday, and winning the week, being 1-0 on the week, and you keep focused on that, and then. If you're 1-0 every week, then you're where you want to be at the end of the season. You just keep trying to win that week, and then at the end of it all, if you've been 1-0 enough days and enough weeks, then chances are you've probably achieved the standard that you set for yourself, and not what anyone else did. So it's great. It helps with recruiting, certainly, to have a preseason ranking. And I think what's helpful of it is I think it maybe sets a initial standard, kind of a baseline for our guys. But then my question to them is that where you want to be? Do you want to be the, whatever it is, 16th or 17th best team in the country? That's what other people's opinions are. Is that where you want to be? Or do you want to set your own standard and hold yourself to a higher standard than that? And I'm confident with the character and the leadership that we have on our team that our guys are going to raise that standard and raise that bar, and in the end, hold ourselves responsible to a higher standard than anyone else could expect.
So based on that outside perception, nationally and certainly within the conference, I would assume when we get the conference preseason poll, you'll probably be first or at worst second. Does that change? You kind of know that you're going to get everybody's best shot. You're going to have a little target on your back. Does your coaching philosophy feed very well for that, the 1-0 week, or do you need to kind of change the way you approach things, knowing that you're going to get everybody's best shot?
No, I mean, look, it's very rare that we change anything here. I mean, we kind of have a philosophy that we've lived by since our staff arrived here in 2007. It's a commitment to reaching our full potential and trying to be better today than we were yesterday as people, as students, and as athletes, and it's really never going to change. And the whole concept of being 1-0, I think, to me, it's the greatest way. It gives you the greatest opportunity to achieve excellence, because it places very little value on what prior results were, and all we're focused on is what can I do today, what can I do now. You can't always control what happened, but you can always control what happens next if you focus on what's next, and focus on the past. That's the surest way to become mediocre. I think it's very easy to drift into mediocrity, but you can't drift out of mediocrity. You've got to consciously choose excellence. And that 1-0 philosophy, I think, allows you to do that. It keeps you from drifting, and complacency is the worst enemy of success. And if you become complacent, then you're going to drift into mediocrity without even knowing it. And so you've got to choose excellence on a daily basis. You've got to consciously choose it. And there's no doubt we're going to have a target on our back. I mean, maybe last year we snuck up on a few people who maybe underestimated us. That's fine, but that's not going to happen again. Everyone that we play, beginning to end, is going to give us their best shot and try to, take us down. And it would be, based on last year, many teams would consider it the win of the year, for them. And so we've got to become that much better, become that much stronger of a football team, because we're not going to sneak up on anyone, and we are going to have a target on our back, and that's fine. That's good. I mean, we love competition, and we want everybody's best game. And so, I think it creates a great opportunity for us to, demonstrate that we weren't maybe a flash in the pan, or as some critics might think that they're 1 year wonder, and really where we are right now in our program is we've got to take the next step. We've got to take the next step, and that's why we're raising the bar and raising our standards.
Could you kind of take us inside your your office and your meeting rooms. I don't think people probably generally understand what goes on in the 2 weeks prior to you guys getting your student athletes back for the season. What kind of things do you go over? How important is that?
You mean what I call coaches camp?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, this was a concept that from my standpoint, I learned when I was a young intern coach at Allegheny College back in 1992, 93, and then I became full time there in 94, 95, and offensive coordinator in 96, 97. And so I worked under Ken O'Keefe for 6 years there, and then at Fordham University, after that. And Ken always, started, or I guess maybe you call it the end of the summer and the start of the season, always started with coaches camp. And I love the name of it, coaches camp, because it's really I want my guys to take summer vacation, and we don't work all summer long. We're not in daily meetings, and because I want people to have fresh batteries when the season starts, because it's a grueling schedule from August really through November and hopefully into December. And so I want people to spend time with their family and get vacation and all those things. And so while everyone's kind of working on their own in the summer, we don't do much together until we get to coaches camp. And then it becomes very, very intensive staff development. So for example, we hired 3 brand new interns, this summer, June and July, we brought 3 new guys in that are as green gets, and so we've got to develop these guys. I mean, we built this whole program on a plan that we call recruit and develop, and it's recruit the very best people that you can possibly find, and then develop those people to reach their full potential. Well, that's the plan that we apply to recruiting student athletes. It's also the plan that we apply to recruiting and developing coaches. We've got to recruit the best coaches that we can find, the best people, the best teachers, the best recruiters, and then now you can't just then let them go. You've got to develop them. You've got to invest time and energy and effort to develop these people. And so, it's central to who we are as a program. And so that's a very intensive process in coaches camp. So for example, on the offensive side, we hired a new tight ends intern and a new running backs intern. And Coach Winslow, my offensive coordinator, he might spend one day clinicking them on our run game, for example. And then the next day, they're going to clinic him back on the run game and what they learned. And then they're going to be evaluated on that. They're going to be coached on it. They're going to be corrected on it. And instead of saying it this way, we want to say it this way. We're talking about what not to do too much. We need to focus more on what we want to do, because the subconscious mind can't process a negative. For example, the worst thing that you can tell a quarterback is, whatever you do, don't throw it to the inside, right? Because that's what's in his mind. Coach Filer, who's over here, he knows the worst thing that you can tell a pitcher is don't put it low and inside against this guy, because that's what's in his head. And so there's a process to teaching. We develop our guys in terms of recruiting, because once the season starts, there's not a whole lot of time, for development. With coaches, you got to be ready to go, right? And so we spend an enormous amount of time developing our staff, and I don't, I'm just using interns as an example because they're new, but we don't stop developing even the guys. I got guys that have been with me 9-10 years now. They've got to develop. The one thing we all have in common is the potential to be better today than we were yesterday. And I don't care if you're a brand new coach or you've been doing this for 30 years. If you don't believe that you can get better, then you're not going to be successful. Everybody can grow and develop, and I include myself in that. And so we're constantly honing our craft, if you will, to try to become the best we're capable of, because let's face it, our team's only going to be as good as our staff that's developing them. And so I believe this: if I do a great job developing my coordinators, then they're going to do a great job developing their staff. And then if my staff is developed, well, then they're going to develop the players underneath them. They're going to develop the seniors. And then those seniors, along with those coaches, are going to help develop juniors and so on down the line. And it's ultimately everyone's job here, in camp to develop the 50 or so freshmen that we have reporting on day one who don't know anything. And the better job we do of development from the top down, the faster those freshmen develop, and it gives them the best opportunity for a successful 4-year career, in our program. But that's really what the coaches camp is about. It's intensive staff development so that we're all on the same page and we're all ready to go when the players show up, and and the players can see that level of preparation.